This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome back to An Athlete's Journey. I'm your host, Travis Reed. Today, I got a special guest, a friend of mine who I played with my last year in Europe, a really good dude who I appreciate. I had so much fun with. I even played against him when I was in Holland, and then now we're playing. We played together with my last year in Europe in Germany. He's an Australian player, played in Germany for a long time. Germany legend, period. Germany legend. I just, like I said, I had a wonderful time with him. He showed me around. His name is Jeka, and he is my guest today. Thank you for coming on, Lee. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Happy to be here, Chad. Good to see you again, man. Video. I can see you looking good, man. Looking good.
Definitely, man. I definitely feel like it's like good for us to connect. I was trying to get people don't understand. I've been trying to get him on for like a year. So definitely want to say I just appreciate him coming on. Appreciate him coming on my show. So because he can play, y'all. He can play. Lee had a jumper. He had a wet jumper. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate the invite onto your show, Trav.
No problem. All right, Leo, let's get it started. How did your basketball journey start?
Well, I was 4 years old when I first started playing, which is quite young. I can't remember if the youngest age group was under 8s or under 6s, but I just played because my older brother played. He's 2 years older than me. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to, do what he did. So I started playing basketball. And I really loved it. I loved all sports, to be honest. I was in primary school. That's what we call it over here. Grade 1 to 6. I was playing basketball, football, thing we called little athletics on the weekends. Mm-hmm. So it's just like track and field events. So my parents had me and my brother playing 3 different sports each. Now looking back, I think I don't know how they got us to all those events, but
shout out to all parents.
Yeah. So then I sort of went on and kept playing at the local club, and then they have a representative team, and that was the Werribee Devils, and played for them all through juniors. So, but before I got to the Devils, I might have just been starting with the Devils. I was playing they pick a schoolboys. So this is in grade 6, I believe. They pick a schoolboys Victorian representative team for basketball and for football and for all sports. And I made the basketball and football team. So you go to the nationals and you compete. Mm-hmm. And from that moment on, it was a lot of driving, a lot of traveling for my parents. They just said, choose one sport. I chose basketball, and that's when I went to play through all the junior representative teams and play for the Werribee Devils, and that sort of got me deep into the game.
No, yeah, I was gonna say, if your parents is traveling to basketball, football, and they play a different type of football, everybody. They play rugby, which is just street football, football with no helmets, and they kick, but it's like, when I went to a game, I was like, these dudes are physical. So, I would never want to tackle a guy with no helmet on my head.
Yeah, that's Americans think we're crazy. That's rugby. That's the NRL. I played the other code, which is probably the more popular code, which is the AFL, where it's like the oval ball and you can handball and kick, but it's not as physical as rugby. Still very physical, and you can hit people and tackle them and stuff like that. But when you're playing at a younger age, there's not that much of physicality in there. But so there's 2 different codes. In Melbourne, where I'm from, AFL is the main code, and in Sydney, the NRL is the main code, which is the rugby. Just if anyone out there is interested in Australian football.
Hey, I was interested when I was out there. Shoot, I I went to a couple of games when I was in Australia. When I was hooping out there, it was fun. I was like, these dudes are crazy. I wouldn't want to play against them in basketball. It was definitely something to see.
Yeah, that's why it's funny when you play like a Monday night comp, you know, and you got footy players playing. It's dangerous because they just run straight through you and don't even think it's a foul.
Yeah, I imagine, man. I only can imagine. So I know you mentioned it, you know, through grade school. They don't have what they call AAU out there, do you? Do they in Australia, or is it something a little bit different?
No, there's nothing really like the system or the sort of setup that you guys have in the States. I mean, the high school basketball that I played was it was really there was nothing. You just play against your district and that was it. It was nothing that, you know. And the best basketball players don't always play for their high school team. It's totally different out here. You play for your local club, and then you try and make the Vic Championship. So that'll be played on Friday nights. So that's where all the development is. So it's not through like the high school and college system like it is for you guys. It's through basketball associations that set up the clubs, and then they compete or they try out and compete to play in the Vic Championships. BC.
Okay. So it's like basically like only the best of the best gets to play in these Vic Championships on like the Friday nights, right?
Yeah, that's right. So you've got your local domestic competitions, and then from there, each association will have a representative team. And then those teams play against all the other representative teams, and the top 8 will play in VC, or top 12 will play, and they'll keep competing on Friday nights. Back when I was playing, there was, you know, every age group had a first team and a second team. Now the popularity of basketball, junior basketball in Australia is just skyrocketing. So there's like 7, 8, 9 teams per age group now in each club. So there's like, you know, there's a big problem of getting enough basketball court space here. There's enough courts built. Don't know how it is in the States with that, but yeah, that's a challenge with a lot of the associations.
Well, no, yeah, with the AAU thing, it's for us, it's a little different. You know, like sometimes you have that because there's so many AAU teams. It's like this guy wants, you know, has a little bit of money. He wants to have an AAU team because his son plays on it. He wants his son to play the whole game. Or they have the main AAU team where a lot of the NBA guys, Compton Magic from California, where a lot of guys have gotten drafted out of the Compton Magic. You know, a guy got drafted by Atlanta from Cheatham Hills. You know, Jeff Japan, it's just like a bunch of guys from that. You know, like now it's just like, or all these kids come to one team and play, or like I said, it's like a spread out kind of thing where it's so many teams. So yeah, it's kind of like that for us. Now, obviously, you didn't play, like I said, really go to high school. But what was your most memorable moment as a young kid? You know, like as far as like going with the path you were going on.
Most memorable moment that just popped into my head was probably the first Vic state team that I made for basketball. We went to, I think it was in Terrigal, New South Wales, and we won the nationals. So just as a young kid, representing your state and then winning, going back into the locker room and celebrating was probably the highlight as a kid. Yeah.
Well, no, that's cool. Like I said, we for us, we have like the nationals, the AAU nationals. So like the best of the states of every state, one team gets one. You know, one state gets one team. So it's like the top 50 teams in the state, in every top 50 state teams. You know, and we won 2 years in a row, and we went to the nationals. So in the nationals, I saw Shane Battier, Elton Brand, Ron Artest, you know, all these dudes at like 13, 14 years old, they was all on their teams. So for us, it was like me, Jason Collins, Jaron Collins, that played on the, you know, like our team that won the state. We beat like Baron Davis' team in championship. We tried to recruit him and kind of be like a ringer on our team, but he didn't want to do it. So, but yeah, I understand what you're talking about, like as far as like representing your state. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, well, it's cool, but it's not. I can't drop the names you've just dropped, and I didn't compete against 50 states. We had 6 or so states and a couple of territories, so it was there's only there's
Hey,
less.
it's still, you still represent it, bro. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in high school, like you played with your club team, and obviously you didn't, like you said, you didn't play with your necessarily high school, but like, were you ever thinking about coming to the States for college? Were you ever recruited to the States for college, or did you just know that I'm gonna stay here and like go to school out here in Australia?
No, there was a time where I did. I spoke to a couple of schools. I think I can't even. I mean, that's how old we are, Trav.
Yeah, right.
I can't remember.
Agreed.
But it didn't end up panning out because I started training with the Melbourne Tigers. You might know Andrew Gaze. Yeah. Bernard Copeland. Warwick Giddy, Josh Giddy's dad, who's with the Thunder. Those guys. So I started training with them when I was 17 or something like that. So I was like, I just got a little taste of the NBL, and I think, oh, this is pretty cool. Training with those guys. So I did that for a couple of years, and then during that period, I was thinking of going, and then I got offered a contract with the Brisbane Bullets. So I chose that pathway instead. Which, looking back, who knows? It's probably would have been more beneficial to go the college route, but I can't regret anything. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot out there. Joey Wright was the coach. He was the first coach I had. And I had a lot of good coaches, but he was the first coach I had that really, really trained you hard, and you got the most out of you, what you could do physically, because you just wouldn't have been able to, stay on that squad if you weren't giving 150% every day, and he'd have long practices, and he's defensive minded, which is what I needed at the time too. So yeah, it was good.
No, I get that. I think, it's hard when you're a kid, if you're getting money offered at you or a chance to go to school, like I don't know what you made your first contract, but let's just say you made 100,000 or whatever. And you're just like, 100,000 is in my hand right here, or like go to college, I think I might take the 100,000 myself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it wasn't even the money, and it wasn't that much, but it wasn't even the money. It was almost like I grew up idolizing all these guys playing in the NBL, and then I got a chance to be a part of that. So I was like, yeah, I'm definitely doing that. It wasn't a real hard decision. So, yeah.
Well, okay. Well, like, I know there was a big jump from obviously playing for your club team to playing for the NDL team. What was the hardest thing about the transition from one to the other?
Just I guess the size of everyone. So getting, you come out of the juniors, even when you're under 14s, 16s, 18s, 20s. So playing nationals at each age group. I mean, guys are big. You got your 7-footers, and Bogut was on one of those teams. Actually, I played with him, not against him. But there was some big guys. But then you get to the professional level, and it's just a whole nother world. You got big guards, strong, quick. So the challenge was probably just the size of everyone. I needed another 5 or 6 inches, I think.
No, I mean, I've watched it. I had a couple friends who did play. So I know the size and the strength of Australian big man, and speed. So, and obviously, if they bring in Americans, the Americans are pros. They're good pros because they're getting paid good money. So yeah, I imagine that being like a tough transition.
It's a bigger jump in Australia because you go from there's no in between. You go from the juniors, and then if you can, you play like in the second division or in the NBL. And that jump is pretty big. It's like I know the jump from college to the pros in America is big, but college is sort of a good sort of transitional league to get. Oh, it's not a league, but
no.
Of your development to go through to adjust to all that stuff. So in Australia, we don't have that there is that missing link in between.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's kind of like when you go from high school basically to the NBA or something like that. Kind of like, yeah, like the big jump. It's a big jump. So I imagine that. So what was I would say, what was the biggest thing you learned from your first year playing professional?
Well, with Joey Wright, it was a really big eye opener. Just like I said, how hard to practice, how hard you had to work, and how hard these guys actually work day in, day out. It was. I thought I was working hard, and then I got there, and then I realized what real hard work was. So that was probably the biggest thing.
Okay. Well, obviously that was the beginning of your career. How many years did you play overseas, or just play professional in general?
Professional depends if you count the semi-professional. The second league stuff over here, which I just sort of finished playing. But I played 10 years over in Europe, eight years in Germany, and then I split one in Switzerland and Portugal.
Okay, but how many years did you play in Australia before you went to Europe?
Well, I played for the Bullets, and before that I was playing for Werribee for a couple of years, which is a semi-pro league, like you would have played. Was it Rockhampton?
Rockhampton. Yeah.
Rockhampton. So since I was 18, and then at 35, 36, or maybe I was 17. So nearly 19 years or something like that. It's a long time.
That is a hell of a career, everybody. A hell of a career. I would say that just because, if somebody's playing for that long, you got to respect, their knowledge of the game, 19-year career. That's double my professional career. So, yeah, I give you much props, Lee. Much props. All right. So you play a couple years in Australia. What made you go to Europe?
Well, I got at the time, they had imports, and then they had Bosman players. You remember that?
Yeah.
Bosman A, Bosman B, which is like so my mum was born in England, so I was able to get a British passport. At the time, I just finished with the Bullets, and I wanted to travel as well. And one of my old teammates said, I know an agent who can look at getting you a job overseas. So I was like, all right. And he got me, there was two options: Italy second league or Germany second league. He said the Italian job would be you wouldn't be guaranteed minutes. You could play a lot, you might not. The German job, if you go there and they like you, you'll play. So I was like, all right, I want to play. I went to Germany. And it was a crazy situation to walk into, your first sort of time in Europe. And you get there, and this is what I walked into anyway. I had no iPhone. I had an old flip phone because I don't even got iPhones weren't there. Then I had sorry, just getting distracted. Then I had so I was in a hotel, no iPhone, no nothing. So I don't think I spoke to my parents for about a 2-week period when I got there, and I was not really knowing what I know now. Going into that situation, I would have dealt with things a little bit different and asked for a few more things. They just had me in this little hotel room. It was on the beach, which was good, but I had nothing, no form of communication. I didn't have internet, I had nothing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I didn't have an apartment, so I was in that hotel for 2 weeks. That I got through that. And then, but yeah, on the basketball side, walking into training, you got the Lithuanian coach, Lithuanian point guard, Lithuanian center, 3 Russians, and then there was three Americans, myself, and 4 or 5 Germans. So there was a couple of interesting things. One was I was there to replace a player who was still there. And his name was Kinte Smith. He was a good player, but just didn't fit into the team, I guess. I'm not sure, the coach wasn't happy with him. But they didn't tell me this. So I'm getting there, and I'm friends with everyone, and I got to know everyone pretty quick. And Kinte was a real nice guy. and now when I look back on it now, I think he was actually a nicer guy than I realized at the time, because he knew I was there to take his job and still treated me like a good friend. So it was one of those situations where you soon learn that it's a business over there pretty quick, as you know. But yeah, then training sessions would get pretty wild, because they were a close-knit team, but very segregated because of the nationalities.
Of course.
Four different nationalities. When you throw the ball out and you go 3-on-3 with that group, and you represent your country. No,
oh my gosh, dude. I want to circle back on what you were saying, Lee. Like, man, I'll give you one story, a quick one. Like my first year overseas, when I was trying out for teams, I went to France. I had just got cut in Poland. You know, even though like I was doing good, they said you wasn't 6'10", so we're gonna cut you. And I went to France, and there was an American there. Why? They was like, you just go into the team. It was like, no, it was an American there. I had to go against him every day, 1-on-1, 2-on-2 with the juniors, 3-on-3 with the juniors, then full practice. Then we would play a game, you know? And I was just like, damn, you know, like, so my agent told me, oh, no, it's just you. You're going to make the team, yada, yada. And then they brought another American in while I was on my tryout with the team. It was like, I mean, the first American was nice, and they kind of expected me to be nice to the new American. And I'm just like, why? You trying to take my job? Like, you got me on the tryout, you got him on the tryout. You know, it's like, oh, so yeah. I'll give you much props and love for that one, man. Because you know, trust me, I was like, this is a business, dude. Straight up, they brought a guy. You was on the tryout. They brought a guy in for your tryout.
And you think sometimes these clubs, they got, you know, older people sort of running them who maybe don't understand the psychology that the players go through, the mental side of it. And I mean, I don't think many players in that situation are going to perform anywhere near their best. There's other teams I played on later on in Europe that were similar to that I'm sure we'll touch on.
Yeah, no, man. Like I said, that was, and I want to say, like, as far as like, you know, Europeans, like Americans, and then like the home, I had that when I was in Holland. It was like the 3 Americans. Then we had like, you know, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, you know, all in one section. And then we had the Dutch people in another section. So it was like, it was all, our coach was like, nah, I'm gonna switch everybody's room. So you're gonna be with random people every time we went somewhere. So, you know, because you go to a hotel, you'd be like, all right, I'm with the American. And no, we can't do that. You're gonna be with this Lithuanian dude who smokes before the game. So the room smells like smoke.
Hey, the Lithuanian point guard on that team smoked like a chimney.
Yeah. I was like, you smoking before the game? He's like, man, I have to smoke, Travis. I have to. You know, this is just me. I'm in good shape. I was like, wow. So you play your first year in Germany. You make the team. Obviously, you do really good. What happens next?
Next, I stay. We had I became pretty good friends with. The coach kind of took me in as a son. Really, he had a son himself named Bennis, and he was over in the States at college, and he was due back. So I'd spoken to him briefly over the phone a couple of times, but I spent Christmas with, you know, Coach Willie, which is Bennis's dad, and, you know, created a bond with him and Broderick Bob, who was the American big man we had, who was the exact same height and weight as LeBron, but he was our 5-man, and it just made me think about LeBron differently, because this guy was dunking on everyone, overpowering everyone, and he was the same, you know, same height and weight as LeBron.
Of course. Yeah,
it was just pretty crazy. So I ended up signing early, which, looking back, might not have been the smartest move. So
everybody has those stories. Everybody has those sign early stories. Like, man, I shouldn't have signed early.
Yeah, I signed again, and then I had another good season, and we did well. I think we finished we came from, when I got there the first year, I came in to stay in the league mode. We were in the relegation, bottom two, and we got out of that. And then the second season we finished 7th, and the most of this team wanted to stay. Bennis was there as well, who I'd become really close with. And then Broderick Bob stayed, and there was some imports come and go, but we kept the core together. And I stayed for a third season. We finished 3rd. So we, it was a good few years there in Cuxhaven. Really built some lifelong friendships and learnt a lot along the way. But I don't regret it. But if I had have held out, I might have been playing in on some different teams, and you know how that goes.
No, Lee. Me and you have very similar stories, because I played against you when you was in Cuxhaven, right? Yeah, that's when
I remember you dunking on all of us. I remember that.
Yeah, that's when I was like pre-surgery, pre-shins, pre-stretch fractures. I had all the hops then,
I remember our coach saying, "Watch out for this guy." We'd already, me and Bennis were looking at who else was doing what around Europe, and we definitely knew who you were. So coming in, we were like, "Oh yeah, Travis Reed," and then you came in and we couldn't stop you. You dunked on all of us, but you had a good little guard too, named Travis.
Travis Young. Yeah,
he was smooth too. Yeah,
he was like our. If you want to say we were Kobe and Shaq, he was definitely Kobe. He was getting buckets. He was a bucket getter. He come down, shoot it quick. He was just 5'8" or 5'10", whatever he was. He was just little. Other than that, he might have made the NBA.
Right. I saw the two extreme versions of you then, didn't I? I saw the above the rim and then the below the rim.
You saw, that's what happens. You saw pre-surgery, you saw post-surgery me, because when we played together, I was below the rim. I was not above the rim then.
But still getting it done. No one could guard you in the block. You
Exactly. That's the funny thing, is like I still have my savvy, but when I was young, I would pump, dunk it before. Then I was like, fade away layup, hook shot. So, but now you won MVP that year. Y'all finished 3rd, right? MVP of the league.
That was a couple of years later. From there I thought, all right, I'm going to try get out of Germany and see what else is out there. And I signed a contract in Switzerland, and boy was that an experience. So I got there. There was like, I don't even know what the rules were for imports. Each country is different. I can't remember, but I know that by the time I left, which was after a few games, the coach had actually fired 20 Americans.
What?
Yeah, this was in like a 3 or 4 month period. So in the preseason, we had guys landing on flights and leaving on flights every week. It was mayhem. And this coach was crazy. So he was a French coach. Not to pick on his appearance, but he had a weave sewed in and all this sort of stuff. He was a real colourful character, nice guy off the court, But as soon as we walk into training, he'd just flip, and we would just be, I said I had a tough coach in Brisbane. Well, he had some. He knew he knew the game. He's one of the best coaches in NBL history. This coach in Switzerland, he was just pure craziness. So he would, no rhyme or reason for anything, and just sprint this, sprint that, do this, 3 sessions a day. It was. I think it. I still had a long career, but I think that took a couple of years off my body, definitely.
I understand that.
Yeah, it was in Lausanne. Lausanne was the town. It was a beautiful city. Probably the best, the nicest city I lived in. Another challenging aspect of that whole situation was there was 5 or 6 of us living in this really, really big house. And it was a beautiful house, but there was too many of us in there. So because the transportation system there, there was no, I think only one player had a car. The rest of us had to catch the train to trainings. It was a real quick trip, and it wasn't, it was probably more convenient than a car, but public transport. But it was wild. We lived on the top of a hill, so the best part about it was, even though we were with 5 or 6 other players in the house, you could look from our balcony over Lausanne across the lake to the water Evian. The Evian Mountains in France. So you could see.
I've never been there, but I heard of it though. Yeah.
So that was the highlight, coming home and just sitting looking out across the lake.
Nice.
But I never, in my whole career, never got fired. But this is the closest I came to. I still don't call it quitting. I just got myself out of there because it was wild. And I had a sit down meeting with the coach, and I just said, basically told him that what's happening here is crazy. There's no culture. There's no one's comfortable. People are coming and going, and it's not the environment. It's not going to get the best out of me. And I actually left without even another team to go to. Went back to Hamburg. So.
So you just left and didn't even know what you were going to do. You just left the team.
Yeah, I left the team, and that was probably one of the most challenging. I know you've gone through a similar situation where you were trying out for this team and that team and bouncing around after listening to your journey on the
shout out basketball journey.
Yep, that was a great story. I was in Hamburg, and it was below -5 every day. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit.
Cold.
It's cold. Frozen. It's even black ice on the roads. There's snow, ice everywhere. So I had nowhere to train. They didn't have a first team in Hamburg at that stage, and I didn't even know where the closest second league team was. So I just took it upon myself to go to this little old outdoor basketball court at a park, sweep the ice off the court, or rake it off, and I'd train out there for a couple of hours a day in below zero. I was slipping all over the place. I couldn't really work on much. I was just running around and shooting. And then finally got the call up while I was in touch with David Vick. He was the center, stretch 5-man for back in the day. So he was before his time. He had played most of his career in Portugal. We both signed in Switzerland together. And became friends, and then he got out of there as well, and went back to Portugal because that's where he built his career and stuff like that.
Right.
He was on a team, and he spoke to the coach. They had an opening, so I went out for a tryout and signed with that team in Portugal.
Okay.
Yeah, so that team was based on the Azores Islands, so it wasn't on the mainland. So we'd have to fly to a 2-hour flight. So it's basically in the middle of the Atlantic between America and Europe.
Okay.
These Azores Islands, these little row of islands, and we'd have to fly 2 hours to the mainland for away games, but they'd bunch them together. So we'd stay for 2 weeks in this 5-star resort on the beach in Costa de Capri. I don't know the name of it, but it was awesome. It was a real eye opener. The games were on TV, and it was a lot of fun. That season.
Oh, that's cool, man. Like I said, I've never been to Portugal. That was kind of like my last maybe stop after Germany and then Australia. And I was like, agent I was working with, kind of dragged me along, and I was just like, okay, now I'm stuck. I got to wait until December to try to go back to Europe or something like that. The money wasn't good. The money wasn't what I wanted.
Yeah.
So, towards the end, it was just like, man, I can stay. I can just stay home and try to figure it out, because I didn't want to, I was like, I want to keep playing just to say I keep playing, Even though the year we played together, I had a blast playing with you and other teammates, but the money was just like, bro,
Yeah.
I can't.
It becomes not worth it at some point.
Yeah, it becomes like not, look, I can't. I got a son now. I had a son then, and it was just different, So I understand, like I said, So you go to Portugal, then you realize, let me get back to Germany, right?
Left Portugal, and then finished the season. Actually, funny story about Portugal. We were not paid for, I reckon, 3 months of the season.
Wow.
2-3 months, probably. Yeah, no, it was longer than that. And we had guys who'd played in the NBA, guys had been around, and these guys were just, I'm willing to do everything. I didn't miss a training or a game, even though we weren't getting paid. There was 3 or 4 guys that sat out every practice, every game, and just sit there and, laugh and joke because they're not getting laugh and joke at the practice. They were pissed off they weren't getting paid, but, they were trying to make the best out of it. But they weren't going to do one thing for the club unless they got their money. So we had a bit of a rocky, we made the playoffs, but we had a bit of a rocky end to the season because the club stopped paying anyone. So it turns out, long story short, a lot of clubs that year in Portugal didn't pay their players, but we were lucky because our major sponsor was the government in the Azores, the Lusitania government. So they sort of had to pay us, I think. So it wasn't until like 5 months after the season, everyone was home. We're like, oh, we didn't get our money, talking to each other, stuff that talking. And then all of a sudden, everyone's contacting each other. Hey, man, I got paid. So like 5 months later, they paid us. It was really, we know. No one.
They paid you the whole back end of the money?
Yep.
Wow.
They made it all in one lump sum, and it was months after everyone had left.
Oh, wow. See, that's like a Christmas present in the summer.
Yeah, it is.
Because usually you spending money all summer. You never gain it.
No, that's right. But I think it was because it was a government thing that they couldn't sort of just dodge it. So we were lucky.
Now I got you. Okay. So you go back to Germany.
Yeah. So I go back to Germany, and I didn't get a contract I wanted. So I just did one of those. All right, I'll sign here. I'll do the best I can to get a better contract the next year. So that was Freiburg. Good club, good players, good mates. Met some good people there. Yep. But then I went back to Cuxhaven, so my original team. Mm-hmm. And that's when we had a really good team. We had they changed the rules at that point, so you could have 5 imports. But you had to have 1 German on the court at all times, or 2 Germans on the court at all times. So they'd rotate between all imports. So myself and 4 Americans, something like that. Yeah. And we just got lucky. We got lucky with the Americans we got. They were really, really good for that league. And we came second. So we moved up. Essentially, if the club had enough funding, they would have gone to the first league, but they weren't in a position to do that. So, back then there's no playoffs. It's just you finish first or second, you go up to the league above. Okay. And they couldn't afford that. So, and I think I came runner up in the MVP that year. So then Würzburg had just moved up from like the 5th league to the 4th league to the 2nd league, and they wanted to go to the 1st league. So I signed a contract with Würzburg, and that was a kind of a crazy situation too, where we had those import rules were sort of wild. And I think it went to 1 German on the court possibly, but we had like 6 imports or maybe more, and there was 3 or 4 of them that rotated, so they wouldn't suit up a lot of the time because we're at the import. So you had guys just train Americans. They had for that league a good budget, and we had just Americans just out there on the team, fully contracted, but they barely played. They were just training. So it was had John O'Leary, Jonathan Levy.
I feel like I've heard of his name. Yeah.
Yeah, he's from Inglewood.
Yeah. Man, that's a heck of a story, Lee, man, because that's just crazy. Like, you're out there for 9 months and you're practicing, but you're not playing. That's crazy. Like, I remember that Germany had those crazy rules. Holland had that too. Holland had, not all teams did it, but like, because we didn't do it. Our coach, he got European players. He had a couple of Americans, like 2 or 3, but he was getting European. Like, we got Europeans. But there was teams that had like 6, 7 Americans. But it's a trick. and I heard it from an agent that told me, basically, say a team has a budget for imports, say it's $150,000, right, for the year. And so, like, instead of like getting two dominant imports where they both get 75 or 80, 60 or whatever the case is, the agent wants all of his players to get a job. So he'll be like, oh, no problem. I'll get you 5 Americans for 30,000, each. And I'll tell them that, oh man, ain't no jobs out here, ain't no other job. This is how much they got to pay. It's their budget. And so you'll be on a team where you might be getting more than everybody else, and then these agent is divvying up these 5 players, making this 30,000. Yeah, that's how they be getting you.
There's a lot of dodgy agents out there.
Yeah, man. Sure. Yeah, I heard that. I was like, yo, okay.
It makes for really competitive practices, though. You got guys fighting for minutes every training session, so it was pretty tough. But we had a great season, and Würzburg, beautiful city. It's got the river running through it. It's got a big castle on top of the hill. It's picturesque. We had another positive to Würzburg was it was the only city I played in where basketball was the #1 sport for that city. So obviously you got soccer or football, you got handball, you got there's so many sports that it's normally 3rd or 4th, but in Würzburg it was the #1. So we pretty much sold out every home game, and they used to put a big screen out the front of the stadium so more people could watch. So it was a really crazy atmosphere. And it was the first year Bayern Munich came into the league, and they had plans to go really big time. So they ended up going to the Euro League, and they still are, obviously. But we ended up moving up that year. Well, moving up, we finished 2nd behind Munich, which put us in the go up to the first league, and they said that our coach, the club was about to sign me and John O'Leary and for 3-year deals and stuff, but new coach came in because they said our coach was too young, and then the new coach brought all his guys in, so we sort of got we missed out, which was pretty disappointing. After the club sort of tells you, we want you, and we're looking at this and this, and then 3 weeks later, no, sorry, we've gone another direction, which is never good to hear. That year was a big year for myself. I won the MVP of the league, so I was thinking, man, Würzburg, I want to make this my home. I'll sign a longer deal, and then that happened. So that led me to you, I believe. The Braves was next.
Yes. Can I tell you a funny story? This guy gets like a standing ovation, like on all our road games. They chant Lee. I'm like, this dude is a celebrity over here, man. It's crazy.
Don't listen to Travis.
They had like a tribute, to Lee and all this. I'm like, yo. No, like I said, I remember our year. It was basically my last year. I just came back from Australia, and my agent at the time was like, yo, it was like literally I was home for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. He's like, yo, got a contract for you to go to Germany, and I was like, all right, let's hit it. Like I had just been coming back, and like that year was like my last, year to play. And you showed me around, showed me the good spots to eat. It was a cool city, cool, obviously vibe, but I felt with that team, we had a lot of different personalities.
Definitely, there's a lot of personalities is a good way to put it. But the team never really gelled together as a team. There was groups of us, and then there was, I think we had three
coaches. Three coaches.
We went through a couple of imports, but the one thing that pops out to my head about that season is the Sundays. going to that American movie theater with you, getting all that popcorn and watching movies. That was one of the highlights that season.
Right? No, that was like the funnest time because I was like, yeah, we get to get out because I didn't really go out in the city. I didn't really know where to go. You know, like I was like, I'm older now. Like, is there a club to go to? Like, we would finish the game. I would go to Burger King, eat, and then head on home. It was nothing, nothing really to do. So like Sundays was like, yes, we get to go to the movies.
Yeah. At practice talking, what's out next week, or what are we going to watch this Sunday?
Yeah. That was like our thing, dude. That was the thing. Oh, we go see something. Whatever's out, man. Let's just go.
Yeah.
I remember that. It was, it was like me and you and the other Americans. We would all drive, and your wife, your girl at the time, but your wife now. Yeah. So that, I remember those are the times, people, that we remember overseas the most. Because I remember, like, we read like the showdown for the lowdown, because we was fighting to stay in the league. Our last game of the season.
Yeah. Oh, and that's right. Actually, I forgot about that. We lose, we're out. We win, we're in. We won.
Yep. Yeah, we won, and the fans was like jumping down like we just won the championship. I was like.
But then the club folded, right?
Yeah, they folded anyway.
Yeah. Oh, crazy.
No, definitely. That was like I said, I did that year. I was actually supposed to go to another team. A friend of mine from Estonia was on that team. I ended up not going to that team, going to you guys' team. And after that, I went to back to Australia. And that was my last time. I was actually trying to get Lee to play with us, people. He didn't want to play. He was Hollywood. He was like, I can't play for this unless I get $7,000 a month or whatever.
That's not true. I actually was close. I was close to coming out there though, but it's a long way from where I am. But anyway.
No, Rockhampton it's its own little small city. I agree with that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? No. But that, So after our wonderful year together, what was next for you?
So what was next was I went and played for Jena, and that was a good club, good situation. The team, again, we had a lot of imports, and we were up and down. We made the playoffs in the last spot or thereabouts, and we upset the top team in the first round. Best of 5 series. That was when playoffs started to come into it. So it was a big deal because it had always just been like soccer. Just relegation, just end of the season, that's it. But now playoffs are in, and we just creep in, and then we upset Göttingen, I think it was, who were picked to win it. So that was a highlight. Then we lost in the semis to Dusseldorf. No, that was good. And I at that stage, well, actually, one of the highlights that season, we were losing. We're on a losing streak, and my dad planned to visit to stay with me for a few weeks. And every time he stayed with me, I think my record for when my dad or family were there, I think it must be like 14-1 or something like that. We went on like a 6-game win streak when we were there. The coach has given my dad all his gear and like, you should stay. He was coming on the road, the team bus with us, staying in the hotel with the team and everything. He was like,
like, you staying with us. Staying with us, man. Yeah.
He was like the lucky mascot. But that was a highlight that year because and then my brother came when we upset the top seed in the playoffs. So my brother was there and saw that. It was always good to get family over to watch. But that season, it was a good season. Christophe Roquette, one of my good mates on that team, he then went to Hamburg to settle down because that's where his girlfriend, wife, I believe, is from. And I was in a relationship also then that has since ended. But I followed Christophe Roquette to Riesvedel I was sort of done by that stage, but I thought, I'll go play with Christophe Roquette. It's closer to where at the time my girlfriend's was and stuff. So I was like, I'll try that. And then that relationship ended. with the girl at the time, and the season was, I just wasn't into it mentally. This was like I think this season had to happen. That season had to happen for me to realize, I'm burnt out. I'm done. I need to end my forcing myself to keep playing. It's like, so I finished the season out. That was a challenge, just to finish the season. I really had to dig deep to go to, you're still training twice a day, you're playing, and you're probably not doing as good as what you can do. So it starts to get frustrating. At that stage, I'm older than most people on the team, so you become a little bit of a grumpy old man, and you're not really yourself. But there was some, made some good friends there, and that was the last season I played. Then I left. I thought, I'm going home, so I came back to Australia, which was the best thing that ever happened, because closer to my family, and now able to try and transition into that next phase of life, which is always a challenge.
Yes, no, I agree with you on that, man. I think that's always the challenge, to kind of figure out what's next for you. So, after you officially retired, what was the next thing? What was the next thing for you?
Yeah, so I got back to Australia, and I didn't want to play basketball anymore. So I'm like, okay, so what am I going to do? Luckily, when I was in Jena, I studied and got my Cert 3 and 4 in fitness, so I could do personal training, group fitness training, and stuff like that. So I had that, and I was pretty passionate about training and the gym and stuff like that. So my brother-in-law worked at a gym, and he helped me get a job at a gym as a personal trainer and gym instructor. So I started doing that. I got a call from Leonard Copeland, who is an American but a legend out here in Australia. Played in the NBA for years. He was coaching in the second division, and he said, "Come and play." I said, "No, I'm not playing." 3 months passed, enough for me to sort of get back to a good headspace as far as basketball goes. So then I signed and played in the second division. I played for 5 years there. So it was sort of a soft transition. So I got to play at that level. It's training twice a week, playing on the weekends, and trying to get a normal life going, So I was able to soft transition. I probably played for 3 years too long, but they still paid decent pocket money. So I was like, I'll keep playing. And I slowly just progressed in the fitness industry. I went into memberships and managing the health club and managing a pool, a seasonal pool. And so I work for a company called Bluefit, and they manage aquatic centers, gyms, tennis centers, and golf courses and stuff like that. So I just started off as the personal trainer and sort of worked my way up, and now I manage an area of sites and oversee the management of that area. So it worked out really well for me. I know it was a tough sort of 3-4 year period to figure out, first of all, what am I going to do with all my time now? Or what am I going to do with my life? I need to work. Where am I going to
Agree.
I can't just I've got to find something I'm passionate about as well. And that too well that challenge.
No. Oh my God. I think we both talked about it before we got on this before we started this, interview. I was just like, man, it was hard, man. It was really hard. It was, I didn't want to play basketball. I hated I didn't watch it, nothing. I was just in my own head in space and just not knowing what to do with my life, period,
Yeah. It's tough because you're used to the highs and lows of basketball, and for the most part, definitely in your career, you've had a lot of highs, big highs. You had a real successful, big time career. I'm going to describe it for you, Trav. And then to come back to a normal sort of day to day, it's not easy.
No. It's like I said, the transition, and like I said, that's why I like to talk about it with people like yourself, you know, who's been through it and now, you know, moving on to the next thing, which is good, man. You know, like you was always like people. He was always kind of like the male model of the team. He had the long hair, kind of like the thing over his head, so he would kind of run and do his hair, and the German girl, ooh, me, you know.
I don't know about all that, but
You know, I mean, he did have the long hair. Look, he had the super long hair then, you know.
I did have the long hair.
Yeah, that's how I was kind of like when he cut it, I was like, what? He cut it? Lee? He could have went into being a model, you know?
Oh man. But yeah, no. Well, part of that period, more recently though, was lockdown. So that was also another, you know, time where challenging time.
I was Santa Claus. I didn't shave or nothing, you know, cut my hair, nothing. I had the big beard then, you know.
Yeah, so I had a beard. I was just looking at a photo the other day, and it was disgusting. Now that I look back on it, for like a year I didn't clip my beard. But I did in that lockdown. I just got bored. I still had my job, but I reduced hours, so I had a bit more spare time. And I started making. This is me just going not crazy in a way, but trying to stay busy. I had got my wife, Jamie. She bought a Chihuahua, and I didn't want one. And then I fell in love with it. I wanted another one, so we got two Chihuahuas, and they can't get up onto the bed. So I made some stairs for them to get up onto the bed. And a few people saw the stairs and asked if I could make them. So I'm starting to churn out these stairs and sell these stairs. And I thought, oh, there's something here. So I started a little side business, small Portsco, just selling some pet accessories and gear and stairs and stuff like that. So
see people, he started a business during COVID, a side business. So I get that, man. I mean, that's good. Well, okay. What was the best thing about being overseas, and what was the worst thing about being overseas when you went to Europe?
Yeah. The best thing about being overseas was, one, I wanted to travel. I wanted to see the world, and I got to do that more so because I played over there. But the best thing, there's nothing better than those winning seasons, those winning, just winning. It's nothing beats that feeling. That was the best thing, and all the fondest memories of those winning teams. We didn't win together, but still fond memories.
No, definitely.
You meet some, like, I was lucky enough to meet you. You meet some really, lifelong friends along the way. But winning was, okay. If I could single it out, Würzburg was probably the highlight basketball-wise, because it's the number one sport in that city, and loved that. They loved it, and it was craziness. And then the hardest part was, I'm really close to my friends and family, so being away from friends and family for 9 months of the year, it never got any easier. From year 1 to year 10 over there, it was always the worst day for that period of time of my life when I had to fly out. Like, all right, I'm doing what I love. I want to do this, but it was just always sucked leaving that day when you had to fly out and leave everyone. But yeah, having family visit over there was also probably one of the highlights as well.
No, definitely. The two people came from me as far as like family. I had, my ex lived with me for a couple months 1 year. My son's mother lived with me. Or not lived with me. She visited me a couple times. But I would say when I got injured, when I had my stress fracture and I had the plate in my shin, and I couldn't move the room. I couldn't leave my house for 2 weeks. And my mom came in emergency, so she cooked for me every day. Man, I must have gained about 15 pounds with my mama, man. She was cooking good food, put some good seasoning on it. I'm like, Your chicken mama tastes 10 times better than my chicken. Golly.
Nothing beats mum's
no,
cooking.
none beats mom cooking, as far as that go. Europe was this, I use it as Europe was that world, and that's the world I was in at that time. I didn't think about the States. That's the only way I could survive, for so long. It was like I thought about Europe when I was in Europe. I thought about the States when I was in the States.
Yeah. Having teammates that gone through the same thing, obviously, than yourself, that always helped, and you became really close with.
Yeah.
For me, it was mostly, a few of the locals, but the language barrier and all that.
Yeah.
It was always Americans who I sort of bonded with more, and like yourself, hung out with, and.
Do you like people like yourself? Was the people that I basically hung out with all the time? If I wasn't playing PlayStation or something like that, I was basically like with Lee. We were doing something, either going to eat or going to movies or whatever.
Yeah. How many hours do you reckon you racked up on the PlayStation per season?
Man, look, I'll tell you this. At that time, nobody could beat me in any of the sports games. In Madden, NBA 2K, none of that. Like nobody could see me. If I would have been on one of those professional teams that get money, if I was as much as I was playing, because that's all I did. I would come home from first practice, play a little bit, ice, sleep, go to practice, come home, play, go to sleep, like every day. You know what I'm saying? Like it was an everyday thing. So
there was one season in Würzburg, a similar thing. We had like 8 of the guys were just into PlayStation. So it would be wake up, play, go to shoot around, go home, have lunch, play, train again at night, and then all hours of the night after that session, everyone's on playing. Call of Duty was the one back then. Like it was just that took way too many hours of my life.
See, people, that's what we do. You want to know what athletes do? Play video games on the road. That's all we do. All right. So I would say you had the transition, obviously, and you knew when you knew when to hang it up. Because you say you just mentally you was kind of transitioning to the next phase. What we always do on the show is we ask every person that's been on the show, like whoever's been in low moments, like what was like your lowest moment? Like how did you get out of that lowest moment? Did you deal with family? Did you deal with yourself? Did you deal with anything else, God, or whatever the case is? How did you get out of that low moment, and how did it help you become the person you are today?
Yeah, it's probably go back to that time in Hamburg where I hadn't spent much time in Hamburg, so I didn't really have any teammates there, or I hadn't played in Hamburg, and I was coming from Switzerland, and I was without a team. Everything flashes before your eyes. What am I done? And what's going on? Okay, there's no, it was a bad time of year to sign as well. So I was very lonely, but I was obviously, contemplating going home to Australia. And I wasn't in a great place, but I did have and always have had a good, support team around me, like family and friends, really close. Even though they're in Australia, speak to them every day pretty much. So that helped me probably the most. And then just like I said, going, getting the ice off that court and going to train 2 hours a day, it was as depressing as that was, that's probably what got me through. So I started to look forward to that 2 hours every day where I'd go to the court and just shoot and work out, in below zero. So I think, focusing on myself during that time, it's cliche, but made me a lot stronger, because from that moment on, I always had, I could always go back to that place mentally and think, well, I'm in a good place now because look where I was.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I think one of the years when I was coming off an injury, trying to get back into the, playing, I remember I missed a year because I had the stress fracture, and I got hurt again. Rehabbing, and so I was in Finland, and I went to Holland. I was staying at a friend of mine's place, and she had a bike, so 'cause she had to go to work, so I would use her dad's bike. In Holland, they have those bikes with the thing for your groceries, one of those, old school 1960s bikes.
Yeah.
I would ride that to the gym, to the weight room or whatever, the gym they had, and lift and do the treadmill and do all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, man, it was a, gift and a curse at the same time. I realized I know it's coming to an end if I got to do this. And then I realized I can always, that was my mental place. Okay, I was doing this, so I can play in Australia, where y'all speak a form of English, but not English. That was my next job, was Australia after that. So, like I said, it was cool. Like I said, so it was definitely a blessing, man. Definitely a blessing. Well, I want to say thank you, Lee, man, for coming on the show. Like I said, it's been like a couple years in the making, I've been begging Lee to come on for a whole year now, so he finally came on. I appreciate you so much for coming on, Lee, man. We got to get back on. You got to come back on again, because you my international friend. So I got to bring you back on again.
I've had fun, Trav. Thanks for having me on, and it's good to see you doing so well too.
Oh man, I realized for myself, I was like, dude, I don't want to coach. I don't want to do nothing like that. I'm too hard on my son. He didn't want me to coach him because I would yell at him all the time. And I was like, let me back up off that. And so I found my voice is something I wanted to do was, obviously podcasting, which is telling people my story and interviewing people about their story. And ours is intertwined because we played together and played against each other. So, I enjoy it, and I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep on bringing on guests like you, and we're going to keep moving.
Yeah, good to hear, man. And you got the voice for it too, Trav, the perfect voice.
Everybody says the same thing. You have a DJ voice. So, well, thank you, Lee, like I said. Shout out people your Instagram. I don't know if you want to keep it undercover or let people know about your business.
No. My business is Small Paws Co, but it's only really in Australia. So most of the listeners are probably in America, and Instagram and all that. I'm not too. I don't need to shout that out.
So you don't want to get in trouble with your wife, with the girls ooh, who's Lee? No, I got you. Well, like I said, thank you, Lee. If you listen this far, I appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe to this show because an athlete's journey is something that it means a lot to me. And like I said, I'm going to keep bringing y'all guests after guests after guests, and we're going to keep this train moving. You can follow me at Travis W. Reed on Instagram, at Travis W. Reed on Instagram, REED, and Travis W. Reed on Facebook. I post all my social media stuff there too. If you have a LinkedIn account, you can follow me. Travis Reed's Book Club. I have a book club for athletes who like to read. So it's something a little different, Plus, we go into YouTube pretty soon, and you'll be seeing these interviews, these clips of them, along the future, probably in the next coming weeks. All right. So I want to say thank you again. This is Travis Reed, son of an Athlete's Journey on the Believe Network. Peace.